Just he didn't pitch Koufax. Palmer, that was game 2, was Palmer and Koufax. And then game 3 was Bunker and maybe Claude Osteen, I'm not sure. But Bunker pitched that game. So I interviewed him about that in 1986. He was still a pretty young guy. He was living off the coast of Washington State, off the coast of Seattle, making refrigerator magnets. Yeah, so my editor had said, go find a good story. I said, well, Wally Bunker's making refrigerator magnets. And he said, well, okay, go. So, and I came home with a couple of magnets. I think I still have them. But anyway, he was fine with his career. Could have been a great career ending early. So I interviewed a lot of these guys in 1986. So I knew them from there. I really regret that I didn't have them on tape. But anyway, I've developed a real knowledge of them, and I wrote a long piece about Wally Bunker on the Bird tapes a couple months ago, and people just ate it up. They wanted. There's a great appetite for this stuff. Maybe it's because I got here in 1983. The Orioles had won 3, had just come off a World Series. And I thought, as a young sports writer, I'm walking into baseball royalty. I'm walking into just the greatest. These guys have been good for so long. And meanwhile, time goes by, and here we are 43 years later, 42 years later. I'm still here. I've raised an entire family. I have grandchildren, and the Orioles have not been back to the World Series. Right. So that's frustrating, and I hope maybe that will change one of these days. But anyway, so it has. So even though I wasn't here, I feel like I've certainly become sort of a keeper of the flame in some regards. And with these tapes, was just sort of almost an accidental historian because I was just writing a book, and I went on to write 4 or 5 others. But this was the one that was left with the residue that in time became special. So anyway, that's what. And I have cards here if anybody's interested in the Substack. I can tell you how to get there. But anyway, I'd love to answer any questions that anybody has about this whole process. Yeah.
So you talk about the glory days of the Baltimore Sun, newspapers back in the early 80s.
Yes.
Did you interview any of the guys when you got there, like the beat writers, like myself or Jackman or Tan, any of those guys?
Yes, I've also. That's another. The one thing I didn't do in this book was interview the newspaper writers because I had so much material. I had 100 ball players in general manager. I could have written a 1,000-page book, and it was just more so. Second time through, I'm basically getting a second chance to tell the story of the Orioles' history. Is what this has given me, and I thought these beat writers, famed newspaper guys, and I know them all. They're not necessarily for the Sun, but yes. So I've interviewed Tim Kurkjian, who's been on ESPN for many years, was my colleague at the Baltimore Sun. Dan Shaughnessy, Boston Globe, many years was Baltimore Evening Sun and the Washington Star. I'm trying to think. Ken Rosenthal, who's on the Fox broadcast, he was a beat guy, young, fiery, good newspaper guy. So I've interviewed 5 or 6 of the beat guys, and those interviews perform extremely well. People, they're such good storytellers. They're such good storytellers, and they have so, and plus it's from an era of baseball that just doesn't exist anymore. And Dan Shaughnessy told me a story. One of the best stories of the whole thing was he was going to go cover the winter meetings. They were in Hawaii. Okay, they were in Hawaii. So this is in the towards the end of the Earl years, right? So Earl, he's gotten to know Earl. Earl has a stepdaughter who was a ball girl, and she was around the team. And Dan knew her a little. They were about the same age. And so the stepdaughter's flying out. The Major League Baseball flew all the people from the East Coast out to Hawaii for the winter meetings in Hawaii. All right, so Dan's going out, and Earl's coming later. But he wants his stepdaughter to go out early. And so he meets him at the bus up at at the mall there. Where do the buses to New York? The White Marsh Mall. So he's at White Marsh Mall, and there's Earl with his stepdaughter, and Dan's getting on the bus, and they're going to take the bus up to New York and get on the plane, the Major League Baseball plane. And Earl says, "Will you take care of her in New York tonight before you get on the bus?" And Dan's like, "Well, sure. What do you want?" So he's peeling off $20 bills. Here, go out to dinner. So let me tell you, a different era of baseball. So that's what I love about talking to a lot of the guys from that era. So different. So just a great story from Dan. Pardon me? What was that? Oh. Now, any other? Yes, in the back. Yes.
Who was your favorite interview?
My favorite interview. Wow. My favorite interview. One of my favorite players to interview over the years was Brady Anderson.
Oh, yeah.
Brady, great ball player.
Jenny's favorite.
BJ Surhoff?
I've interviewed them when I've started doing newer players. I've got an interview posted. It's on the site with Brady Anderson. Just very thoughtful, intelligent. I always liked him.
My daughter had a poster of him in her room for years.
Yes,
Signed.
yes.
He had on like skin tight shorts.
My very favorite. I have a hard time answering that question. I've done Cal Ripken. I've done Bill Ripken. I would have to say, very honestly, my favorite Oriole interview is the late Mike Flanagan. And on this site, I really wrestled with whether or not to put up this interview. That was just a moment that gave me pause because, of course, he passed away 2011 by his own hand, and it was just one of the worst moments ever in Baltimore baseball, and just basically brought everyone to their knees. And here he is, sounding great, and so smart and observant and funny. And I talked to a lot of people, and they said, "Run it." So I ran it, and I'm glad I did. I think he's my favorite interview. So
We had also just lost a pro basketball team prior to that.
right, pro basketball was gone, and
Finished at the Clippers?
right, Baltimore Clippers, right. That all predated me. It was just baseball here.
My dad took me to see Clippers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At Civic Center.
So I would love to. I still have a few on my wish list. I would love to get John Lowenstein.
Where does he
He
live?
lives in Las Vegas.
Roenicke,
Gary Roenicke, he would be a great one.
Al Bumbry.
Al Bumbry, I got Al Bumbry. I've done Tippy Martinez. Tippy Martinez, a very interesting interview. Of course, the piece I wrote about it, he was really good to talk to. Most career appearances by an Oriole reliever, most in history. And so I kind of joked with him. I said, "Tippy, all anybody ever remembers you for is that you picked off 3 Blue Jays." And he just laughed. He says, "You're right. That's I love it and I hate it. I love it because it was great, and I hate it because it's all anyone remembers. He pitched in 500 games for the Orioles, and World Series saves, and did incredible pitching for. He was really good reliever. So, what's that?
He was the catcher that
Len Sakata.
Lynn Sakata.
second
Oh
baseman.
my
Right.
gosh, I hear it.
So, there's some voices I wish I had. And by going back to that 1986 series of articles I did, I interviewed Curt Blefary in Florida. And he was living really one of the, I've been a sports writer for nearly half a century, and you're going to ask me interviews that I will remember, Curt Blefary is in the top 5 maybe, because I found him living in Fort Lauderdale with his wife, and he had really struggled after baseball. He was Rookie of the Year here in 1965, and then he was a major league player. He had some good years. The Orioles, he wasn't a great fielder. The Orioles eventually traded him. And he played a few more years. His career was over, and he loved baseball like nobody. And he could not find his way. He thought he would have a career in baseball after baseball. He did not.